The morning light streamed through the curtains, creating gentle patterns on the wooden floor. It was one of those rare days when the house exuded warmth and tranquility, the silence enveloping me like a soothing embrace. Having just emerged from the shower, the aroma of lavender clung to my skin. Clad in a towel, I navigated my bedroom, my mind occupied with the tasks that awaited my attention. The house perpetually called for attention, whether it was repairs, cleaning, or a myriad of small tasks to prevent it from crumbling into disarray. Perhaps that's the reason I finally consented to let Liam stay for the weekend. He had volunteered to assist with the extensive list of chores I had been neglecting. Honestly, I appreciated the presence. Liam had a knack for infusing the home with vibrancy. His presence offered a comforting reprieve from the stillness of solitude that had enveloped my life since Paul's departure. I extended my hand toward my clothes, slipping into a straightforward button-down shirt and a comfortable pair of jeans. It was only when I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror that a realization dawned on me. I realized I had left my bra behind. I let out a sigh, shaking my head at my own forgetfulness. Another detail to address, I whispered under my breath, making my way across the room to retrieve it from the laundry basket. As I pivoted, the door let out a haunting creak as it swung open. "Hello, Meredith." Liam's voice pierced the stillness as he entered the room. His voice faltered and fell silent as he stood motionless in the doorway, his eyes growing wider with surprise. Time appeared to freeze, if only for an instant. Neither of us stirred, the atmosphere surrounding us thick with astonishment. The warmth surged to my cheeks as I gripped the shirt more tightly, my heart racing within my chest. "Liam," I remarked, my tone more cutting than I had meant it to be. "I apologize." He stumbled over his words, his cheeks burning as he swiftly turned his eyes away. "I wasn't aware that you were. I was merely searching for the toolbox. It can be found in the garage." I held my ground, my voice unwavering even as the heat of embarrassment coursed through me. "Indeed, the garage." He echoed the words, retreating from the room with such haste that he almost stumbled over his own feet. The door clicked shut behind him, plunging me into a profound silence. I paused for a moment, gripping the fabric of my shirt as I attempted to comprehend the events that had just unfolded. It wasn't that he had witnessed anything, as I was completely covered, but the way his gaze lingered, the warmth creeping into his cheeks, was sufficient to propel my thoughts into uncharted realms. With a sigh, I hurriedly completed my outfit, attempting to banish the memory from my thoughts. It was merely inconsequential. I reassured myself, just a mishap, nothing more. As I descended the stairs, the vivid memory of Liam's startled expression lingered in my mind, along with the tremor in his voice. Upon discovering him in the garage, he was hunched near the toolbox, his back turned to me. He appeared engrossed, yet I could sense the tightness in his shoulders, the way his actions were slightly more calculated than usual. "Did you come across it?" I inquired, my voice playful as I entered the room. He cast a quick look behind him, his face a mask of neutrality, as he reached for what I required for the kitchen window. I nodded, leaning against the doorframe. "Let me know if you need any help," he said, his voice steady, though he avoided my gaze. I lingered for just a moment longer, observing him before I turned to depart. Yet, as I walked away, I couldn't shake off the peculiar flutter in my chest, the sense that something had changed between us. The remainder of the morning unfolded in a haze of tasks and casual conversation. Liam diligently attended to the task of repairing the loose hinges in the kitchen. As I immersed myself in the tasks of dusting and organizing, our paths intersected several times, each fleeting encounter thick with an unarticulated tension. As I offered him a glass of water, our fingers grazed against each other. It was a fleeting moment, yet the touch sparked something within me, my breath hitching as our eyes locked for an instant that felt like an eternity. "Thanks," he murmured, his voice soft and tinged with uncertainty. "You're welcome," I replied, my voice wavering slightly. As lunch approached, the atmosphere in the house grew denser, the quiet between us charged with an unnameable tension. We gathered around the table, the clinking of forks against plates creating the sole backdrop of our meal. Liam appeared more at ease, yet the memory of that morning clung to me, the look on his face as he entered my room, the way his eyes held mine for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. I reassured myself that it was nothing significant, he was merely being courteous, lending a hand around the house as he often did. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed a shift, an unspoken truth that I wasn't certain I was prepared to confront. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows while I rested against the counter, my gaze drifting aimlessly to the clock on the wall. Liam had just stepped out to gather more supplies from the hardware store, leaving the house enveloped in an unusual silence. Yet, even in his absence, the morning's events echoed in my mind, replaying with a vividness that quickened my pulse. I reassured myself it was trivial, merely an accident, a miscommunication, yet no matter how often I recited those phrases, they failed to soften the vivid recollection of his face, bewildered, taken aback, and something else that eluded my grasp. As the front door swung open, I pivoted swiftly, striving to regain my composure, and seized what I required. Liam entered, calling out while holding a small bag of tools. His easy smile seemed to falter, not quite reaching his eyes, leaving me to ponder if he felt the same unease that I did. "Good," I responded, infusing my voice with a sense of buoyancy. "If you require any assistance, feel free to reach out." "I might just take you up on that," he remarked, placing the bag on the counter. His gaze met mine for just a moment before he shifted his focus to the tools, yet that fleeting look was sufficient to stir a familiar flutter in my chest. I occupied my hands with washing a few dishes, seeking solace in the routine of the task to calm my frayed nerves. Yet, the soft sounds of Liam moving about behind me, the gentle rustle of his shirt as he went about his work, rendered concentration elusive. "How is the progress on the kitchen window?" I inquired, shattering the stillness. He chuckled softly, acknowledging his stubbornness, but assured that it would be fixed with just a bit of patience. The way he uttered the word patience caught my attention, prompting me to look over my shoulder. He gazed at me once more, his expression contemplative, as if there were unspoken words lingering on the tip of his tongue. Throughout the afternoon, we collaborated closely, addressing various small tasks around the house. Liam attended to the kitchen window, swapped out a malfunctioning light switch, and even assisted me in rearranging the furniture in the living room. At one moment, while we were raising the coffee table in unison, my hold faltered, causing the edge of the table to collide with my hip. "Be careful," Liam said, stepping closer to steady it. His hand grazed mine, and in that instant, time seemed to stand still for both of us. Apology slipped from my lips, my voice a mere whisper. "It's fine," he murmured, his eyes holding mine for a moment longer. The moment lingered far beyond its intended duration. The distance that lay between us crackled with an unspoken tension, a truth we both hesitated to confront. As we continued to paint the trim in the hallway, I caught myself sneaking glances at him, convinced he was unaware of my gaze. The light danced upon the curve of his jaw, and the rolled-up sleeves that showcased his forearms created an atmosphere that felt overwhelmingly intimate, almost too close for comfort. At one moment, he noticed my gaze, and a subtle smile played on his lips. "Is there something on my face?" he playfully taunted. In that moment, I swiftly redirected my focus to the paintbrush I held tightly in my grip. "I'm simply ensuring that everything is being done correctly," he said, his tone light-hearted, ensuring I stayed on track. "What? It falls to someone," I responded, though my tone fell short of the playful sharpness I had aimed for. As we wrapped up for the day, the sun sank low on the horizon, enveloping the house in a warm, golden glow. Liam lingered in the doorway of the living room, taking in our efforts with a look of contentment. "Not bad," he remarked, gesturing toward the newly painted trim with a nod. "Our collaboration is truly effective." "We do," I conceded, though my voice faltered just a bit. He glanced my way, a gentle warmth spreading across his features. "Thank you for allowing me to assist," he remarked. "This location holds significant value for you." "It does," I replied, feeling a tightness in my chest at the earnestness of his words. "I truly value all that you have contributed." "Truly." In that fleeting instant, we remained perfectly still. The quiet that enveloped us was laden with unexpressed thoughts. The weight of his gaze pressed upon me, a quiet intensity that had been simmering throughout the day. That evening, while I relaxed on the porch with a glass of wine, the cool breeze gently caressing my skin, my thoughts drifted back to Liam. I recalled how his hand had lingered on mine earlier and the quiet care that resonated in his voice when he spoke to me. Everything seemed far too intentional to overlook. As he settled onto the porch beside me, a beer clutched in his hand, the air crackled with unspoken tension between us. After a long day, he sighed and settled into the chair next to mine. Indeed, I concurred, my tone subdued. For a moment, we lingered in stillness, the rhythmic crash of the waves enveloping us in a soothing embrace. Yet, amidst the stillness, I sensed a change in the atmosphere surrounding us, as if we were both anticipating an impending moment. "Meredith," he finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Indeed, he paused, his fingers gently drumming on the neck of his beer bottle. "I'm truly grateful to be here," he remarked, his tone measured. I echoed his sentiment, though a heaviness settled in my chest at the gravity of his words. As the stars emerged in the sky, I leaned back in my chair, allowing the cool night air to envelop me. Yet, despite my efforts to unwind, an unsettling sensation lingered within me, hinting that the dynamics between us had shifted, and I found myself uncertain about confronting what lay ahead. The following morning, I rose earlier than normal, the house enveloped in stillness, accompanied by the gentle murmur of the ocean beyond. I sat on the edge of my bed, running my fingers through my hair as the events of the previous day lingered in my mind. Liam's presence had always been comforting, but now it felt different, charged, like an unspoken current was passing between us. When I finally made my way downstairs, I found him in the kitchen. He was standing by the stove, flipping pancakes, his back to me. The smell of coffee and syrup filled the air, wrapping around me like a warm embrace. "Morning," I said, my voice softer than usual. He turned, his smile lighting up his face in a way that made my chest tighten. "Morning, hope you're hungry, I didn't realize you could cook." I teased, moving to pour myself a cup of coffee. "There's a lot you don't know about me," he said, his tone light but carrying an edge of something deeper. We sat at the small kitchen table, the morning sunlight casting golden streaks across the wood. The pancakes were fluffy and sweet, the kind of breakfast that should have been comforting. But the silence between us was heavy, weighted with everything unsaid. "Any big plans for today?" Liam asked, breaking the quiet. I shrugged, taking a sip of my coffee. "I was thinking about tackling the garden. The weeds are getting out of control." "I'll help," he offered immediately. "You don't have to," I said, though a part of me wanted him to insist. "I want to," he said, his gaze meeting mine. There it was again, that quiet intensity, the way his eyes seemed to linger just a second too long. My pulse quickened, and I looked away, focusing on the plate in front of me. We spent the morning outside, pulling weeds and trimming overgrown bushes. The sun was warm, the air filled with the scent of freshly cut grass and blooming flowers. It should have been an ordinary day, but every small interaction between us felt magnified. At one point, as I reached for a stubborn vine, Liam stepped closer, his hand brushing against mine. The contact was brief, yet it ignited a surge within me, leaving my breath momentarily suspended in my throat. "Apologies," he murmured, his tone subdued. "It's perfectly acceptable," I whispered, my chest constricted, throughout the remainder of the morning. I became acutely aware of him, noticing how his shirt adhered to his back as he toiled, and the gentle laugh that slipped from his lips upon discovering an old garden gnome hidden in the earth. As we wrapped up our task, the sun blazed overhead, leaving us both cloaked in a layer of dirt and sweat. "You look like you've been wrestling with a bear," Liam said with a grin, pointing to the streak of dirt on my cheek. "Express your own perspective," I retorted, unable to suppress a chuckle. He moved in closer, his voice low. "Allow me." Before I had the chance to voice my objections, he extended his hand, his thumb softly gliding over my cheek. The touch was gentle, surprisingly personal, leaving me momentarily breathless. "There," he said, his voice now softened. "Thank you," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. We lingered in that moment. The distance between us diminished, his hand resting a moment longer than necessary. The warmth emanated from his skin, accompanied by the consistent cadence of his breath. Suddenly aware that he had overstepped, Liam took a step back, his throat clearing in an attempt to regain composure. "I'll grab the hose," he said swiftly, pivoting away. The remainder of the afternoon unfolded in a haze of fleeting, electrifying instances. Each look, each unintentional brush ignited a flame, kindling a force beyond my grasp. As dusk settled in, with the sun gracefully sinking beneath the horizon, Liam proposed a stroll along the beach. "It's been a long day," he remarked, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "A well-deserved pause is in order." I paused, the idea of being alone with him sending my heart racing. With a nod, I slipped on my sandals and followed him out the door. The beach lay in serene stillness, with only the soft rhythm of waves breaking and the faint call of seagulls echoing in the distance. We walked side by side, our steps in sync, the cool sand soft beneath our feet. "Thanks for letting me help out this weekend," Liam said, breaking the silence. "You don't have to thank me," I replied, glancing at him. "You've done more than enough." "I don't mind," he said, his voice steady. "I like being here with you." The sincerity in his tone made my chest tighten. I turned my eyes, focusing on the distant horizon. We paused at a quaint cove, the setting sun draping golden hues over the shimmering water. Liam faced me, his demeanor grave. "Meredith," he started, his voice barely above a whisper. "Indeed?" I inquired, my heart racing. He paused, his eyes probing into mine. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable," he said at last, "but it seems to me that something has shifted between us." I gazed at him, my breath hitching at the raw vulnerability reflected in his eyes. "It has," I confessed quietly, the words lingered in the air, weighty and inescapable. "How shall we address this situation?" he inquired, his voice scarcely rising above a murmur. "I don't know," I said, my voice quivering with uncertainty. Liam stepped closer, his hand extending toward mine. "I want you to understand that I am present, no matter what this is or what it signifies, I am here for you." His words served as a lifeline, anchoring me in a moment that was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. I confess I'm just as puzzled by this, yet I find myself not wanting it to end. A wave of relief spread across his features as he gently squeezed my hand. "Then we shall not cease," he declared. As we strolled back to the house, the unvoiced tension between us seemed to dissipate, giving way to a serene understanding. After days of suffocating silence, a sense of relief washed over me, yet as the stars twinkled into existence above, an unsettling awareness crept in. This was merely the prologue, and I found myself questioning my readiness for the unfolding journey ahead. The storm arrived unexpectedly that evening, heavy clouds shrouding the sky while rain pounded against the windows. Thunder rolled ominously in the distance, reverberating through the stillness of the house. Liam had kindly offered to assist me in securing the patio furniture earlier, and now we found ourselves in the living room, damp from the rain, our breaths uneven from the hurried dash back inside. "What a storm," he remarked, his fingers combing through his drenched hair. "Indeed," I responded, my voice softer than I had meant it to be. The room was shrouded in dimness, illuminated solely by the gentle, inviting glow of a lamp nestled in the corner. The tempest raging beyond mirrored the escalating tension between us, an inescapable force that neither of us could overlook. "I'll grab something dry from my bag." He started toward the stairs, but then paused, turning back to look at me. "Meredith, are you okay?" The question caught me off guard, and for a moment, I didn't know how to respond. "I'm fine," I said finally, though my voice wavered. He nodded, but his eyes lingered on mine for a moment longer before he turned and disappeared up the stairs. When he returned, wearing a dry shirt and sweatpants, I was still standing in the living room, staring out at the rain streaking down the glass. The room felt smaller with him in it, the air heavier, and I could feel his presence even before he spoke. "Meredith," he said softly, his voice closer than I expected. I turned to find him standing just a few feet away, his expression unreadable. "I feel like something's been building between us," he said, his tone careful but firm, "and I don't think we can keep pretending it's not there." My heart pounded in my chest, my breath catching as his words hung in the air. "Liam, I know it's complicated," he interrupted gently, "but I can't keep ignoring how I feel." His gaze was steady, unflinching, and I felt my walls begin to crack under the weight of it. "How do you feel?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You occupy my thoughts incessantly." He confessed to moving in closer, as if each moment spent near you makes it increasingly difficult to restrain himself. His words sent a shiver through me, prompting me to take a step back, as my emotions clashed between fear and an undeniable force that was far more powerful. This is not how it should be," I stated, even as the certainty in my tone faltered. "What's stopping us?" he inquired, his tone soft yet resolute, as if to question the element of surprise. "Is it because it defies categorization?" I shook my head, tears welling at the corners of my eyes, overwhelmed by fear. "Liam, I feel the same way," he confessed, his voice growing gentler, "yet that doesn't diminish its reality." The space seemed to constrict around us, the gap between our bodies diminishing with each of his deliberate steps forward. "I don't want to pressure you," he murmured, his voice soft and hesitant, "but it's important for you to understand my feelings. I care about you, Meredith, perhaps more than I ought to, but it's something I can't control." My breath hitched, and a tear escaped, tracing a path down my cheek. Liam extended his hand, a gentle touch grazing against mine. The caress was soft, tentative, yet it sparked a surge within me that I couldn't overlook. Before I could rein in my impulses, I bridged the gap between us, my hands instinctively reaching for his. "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted, my voice trembling. "Neither do I," he replied, his fingers intertwining with mine, "but I know I don't want to stop." His words shattered the remnants of my determination, and in an instant, his lips met mine. The kiss began gently, hesitant, as if we were both wary of breaching a boundary that might be impossible to retreat from. Yet, as time slipped by, it intensified, the silent tension that had lingered between us ultimately yielding to something primal and inescapable. The tempest beyond diminished into obscurity, the cacophony of rain and thunder yielding to the calm cadence of our breaths. Liam's hand settled on my waist, drawing me nearer, and I surrendered to the moment, my hands gliding up to rest against his chest. After years of numbness, I experienced a profound sense of vitality, a complete and authentic aliveness. Though fear still hovered at the periphery of my thoughts, it was overshadowed by the comforting warmth of his touch and the unwavering assurance found in his kiss. As we finally separated, we found ourselves breathless, our foreheads gently touching as we sought to regain our composure. "This transforms everything," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Perhaps it does," he replied. His hands linger on my waist, and perhaps that's not such a negative thing after all. I nodded, yet the gravity of the moment rendered words elusive. "We'll figure it out," he said softly, his thumb grazing my cheek with a tender touch. "All right," I finally uttered the word, a soft vow. The remainder of the evening found us nestled together on the couch, as the tempest outside persisted in its fury. Liam refrained from pushing further, and I appreciated his understanding. His comprehension. As the hours unfolded, I leaned into him, his arm encircling my shoulders, his presence unwavering and comforting. After years of solitude, the house finally felt alive again. As I surrendered to sleep, my head nestled against his chest, I dared to entertain the thought that perhaps, just perhaps, this marked the beginning of a new chapter. The morning after the storm, the world outside was still and quiet. The ground damp from the night's rain. I woke up on the couch, the faint scent of coffee wafting through the air. For a moment, I didn't move, letting the memories of the night before settle over me like a blanket. Liam's kiss, the warmth of his arms, the way everything had felt so impossibly real. When I finally sat up, I found Liam in the kitchen, his back to me as he stood by the stove. He was making breakfast again. His movements unhurried and precise. "Good morning," I murmured gently as I entered the room. He pivoted, a grin blossoming on his face at the sight of me. "Morning," he replied, his voice enveloping the air with warmth. "I found myself uncertain about the moment you'd open your eyes." I paused at the threshold, a wave of uncertainty washing over me as I contemplated how to maneuver through this unfamiliar relationship. His words stirred a familiar sensation in my chest, prompting me to avert my gaze and concentrate on the plate of pancakes he had placed on the counter. He suggested breakfast, his tone airy and cheerful. Of course, I replied, taking a seat at the kitchen table. We dined in a quiet atmosphere, the space around us thick with the significance of all that had transpired. Liam appeared at ease, yet an intensity flickered in his gaze whenever our eyes locked, as if he were poised for me to break the silence. As I finally placed my fork down, I inhaled deeply. Regarding last night, I truly meant every word he expressed before I could complete my thoughts. I blinked, taken aback by his straightforwardness. Liam, there's no need for you to say a word, he interjected softly. I want you to understand that what occurred was not a mistake in my eyes. The earnestness in his voice caused a tightness in my chest, prompting me to grasp my coffee, seeking a distraction for my restless hands. I don't believe it was a mistake either, I confessed quietly, my voice quivering, yet that doesn't imply it's not intricate. I understand, he said, leaning forward slightly, and I'm not expecting you to have all the answers at this moment. I'm eager for us to navigate this together. His words carried a simplicity and sincerity that rendered me momentarily at a loss for words. All right, I finally spoke, my voice just a soft murmur. The remainder of the morning drifted by in a haze of serene interludes, with Liam attending to a wobbly cabinet hinge in the kitchen while I meticulously folded laundry in the living room. Each encounter between us was charged with a subtle tension, an unarticulated awareness that we were teetering on the brink of something neither of us quite understood how to traverse. As the afternoon unfolded, the clouds dissipated, and Liam proposed a stroll along the beach. Let's escape the confines of our home for a bit, he suggested, his smile effortless, the fresh air will be beneficial for us. I nodded, putting on my sandals and trailing behind him along the well-known path to the shore. The beach lay in serene stillness, with the waves softly caressing the shore. As we strolled together, the rhythmic waves of the ocean created a symphony that enveloped us both. For a time, we remained silent, the stillness both soothing and laden with things left unsaid. My thoughts wandered to Paul. At last, I spoke, my voice shattering the stillness. Liam cast a sidelong look in my direction, his face reflecting deep contemplation. What is the situation with him? What would his feelings be regarding this? I confessed, feeling a constriction in my chest. Our story. Liam halted his steps, pivoting to meet my gaze. He would wish for your happiness. Meredith, he stated, his tone unwavering. That was his only desire. Tears welled at the edges of my eyes, and I turned my head, my focus drawn to the distant horizon. I'm uncertain whether I am worthy of that. I spoke softly. Liam extended his hand, lightly grazing against mine. You deserve to be happy, he stated with conviction. Embrace the vitality that is rightfully yours. His words shattered a part of me, and before I could rein in my emotions, I found myself turning to him, tears cascading down my cheeks. I feel a sense of fear. I confessed, my voice quivering. I know, he murmured gently, enveloping me in his embrace. However, it's not a necessity for you to be. For what felt like an eternity, we remained in that spot, enveloped by the rhythmic crashing of the waves surrounding us. Liam's arms held firm, his presence anchoring me in a manner I hadn't experienced in ages. As I withdrew, his hands remained on my arms, his eyes probing into mine. Meredith, I love you, he murmured, his voice barely rising above a whisper. The words crashed over me, stealing the breath from my lungs. I love you as well, I replied, the words tumbling forth before I had a chance to hold them back. The revelation lingered in the air, stark and unrefined, and for an instant, all else vanished into the background. The guilt, the fear, the uncertainty, they all faded into the background when I met his gaze, and his touch enveloped me like a warm embrace, a sense of belonging that felt undeniable. He leaned in then, his lips grazing mine in a kiss that was gentle yet brimming with all the unspoken words between us. The environment enveloped us in a haze. What truly held significance was him, the comforting warmth of his touch, the unspoken assurance found in his kiss. As we finally separated, we found ourselves both gasping for air. Our foreheads touched gently, a silent acknowledgement of the weight of the moment that had just unfolded between us. "This alters the entire landscape," I murmured, my voice trembling. "Perhaps it does," he replied, his thumb softly gliding over my cheek, "yet perhaps that's not such a terrible thing." I acknowledged the situation, yet the fear continued to hover at the periphery of my thoughts. "We'll figure it out," I said softly. "Together," he promised. The remainder of the day unfolded as we strolled along the shore, engaging in conversations that danced between the trivial and the profound. After a long time, a feeling of tranquility washed over me, a subtle glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, we could find a way to make this succeed. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I took hold of Liam's hand, intertwining my fingers with his. No matter what lay ahead, we would confront it side by side. The subsequent days resembled a journey into unknown realms. The house remained unchanged. The tasks remained unchanged. Yet, the dynamic between Liam and me had transformed. An effortless connection lingered between us, a silent comprehension that transcended the need for words. And yet, beneath that facade of ease, there lingered a current of uncertainty, a subtle fear of what might unfold next. One evening, as the sun gracefully sank beneath the horizon, Liam and I found ourselves seated on the porch. The chairs were positioned to face the water. The waves gently lapped at the shore, their cadence a soothing and familiar embrace. He extended his hand toward me, his fingers intertwining with mine. "How are you feeling?" he inquired, his tone hushed. I nodded, even as a weight settled in my chest. I believe that to be the case. I spoke truthfully, contemplating the morrow, the day he would depart. An unsettling thought had been hovering in my mind throughout the day, an inescapable burden I couldn't release. "I wish for this to continue indefinitely," I confessed quietly, my gaze locked on the distant horizon. "It needn't be so," he murmured, his thumb grazing softly over the back of my hand. "I will return, Meredith, as often as you permit me to." I faced him then, my heart heavy with the depth of emotion reflected in his eyes. "Are you really saying that?" Each word he uttered carried weight, his tone resolute. "This is something that holds significant meaning for me. I desire to be present with you." The clarity of his expression, the calm assurance in his tone, provided the grounding I needed. The following morning, an unusual stillness enveloped the house as Liam prepared his bag. I lingered in the threshold of the guest room, observing him as he meticulously folded his clothes with an expert's touch. "Must you leave now?" The question escaped my lips before I had a chance to hold it back. He hesitated, his fingers lingering over the zipper of his duffel bag. "You know I'll return," he said, turning to face me. I acknowledged, even as the idea of his departure continued to weigh heavily on my heart. He traversed the space with 2 swift strides, his hands reaching for mine. "This isn't farewell, Meredith," he murmured gently. "It's simply, until we meet again." As the moment approached for his departure, we lingered by the front door, the gravity of the situation enveloping us. "Drive safe," I urged, my voice quivering with unease. "I will," he promised, his gaze locked onto mine. He leaned in then, his lips grazing softly against mine in a kiss that was gentle yet imbued with a subtle intensity. "Call me when you arrive," I said as he stepped away. "Certainly," he responded, his thumb brushing against my cheek one final time before he exited. I observed him as he ascended into his vehicle, the engine growling to life. He cast a final glance in my direction. His smile lingered gently before he drove away. The house seemed to echo with emptiness in his absence, the silence extending endlessly. I occupied my time with various tasks, scrubbing the kitchen and organizing the laundry, yet my mind continually wandered back to him. His voice resonated, his smile radiated warmth, and his presence enveloped the space with an undeniable completeness. That evening, while I relaxed on the porch with a glass of wine, my phone buzzed in my hand. Liam's text arrived, "I'm home." A surge of relief enveloped me, prompting me to swiftly compose a response. "It's wonderful," and I'm already feeling your absence." The ensuing weeks were marked by late-night phone calls and messages that sent my heart into a frenzy. Liam honored his commitment, coming by whenever he was able, and with each entrance, the home seemed to glow with renewed light. Who is it that I am? Yet, despite my deep appreciation for those moments, a lingering concern resided within me. What might others think if they were aware? What might their thoughts be? One evening, while we lingered on the porch, observing the sun dip below the horizon, I shared my fears openly. "Do you believe this has the potential to succeed?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Liam faced me, his eyes unwavering. "It already is," he stated plainly. His words lingered in my mind long after the sun dipped below the horizon, a subtle comfort that urged me to overcome my uncertainties. As time passed, the fear gradually diminished, giving way to a more powerful emotion: anticipation. I let go of the concerns about others' opinions and began to concentrate on what truly brought me joy and made me feel vibrant. Liam's laughter, his kindness, and his steadfast presence awakened a sense of vitality in me that I hadn't experienced in years. One evening, while we strolled along the beach hand in hand, I glanced at him, my heart brimming with appreciation. "Thank you," I murmured gently. "For what purpose?" he inquired, his brow knitting in confusion. "For being here," I remarked, my voice quivering. "For allowing me to feel the freedom to breathe once more." He halted his steps, pivoting to confront me. "There's no need for gratitude, Meredith," he said, his hands gently cradling my face. "You have contributed equally to this exchange." The kiss that ensued was gentle, leisurely, and brimming with potential. A gentle reminder that no matter the obstacles that come our way, we will confront them side by side. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a tranquil sense of calm enveloped me. Our journey was far from over, yet for the first time in years, I felt a sense of calm about what lay ahead. With Liam beside me, I felt ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. United,